Right, welcome. We are back again for another Typical Boro podcast. I'm your host, Steve Dixon. As always, you can find us on, now we're on Blue Sky. Yes, Blue Sky. Anybody know what that is? We're on it. So if you're on Blue Sky, please come and join us. We're on Facebook. Of course, we're on X. We're staying on X. And of course, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Very important if you could do that. And leave comments. We are on the Red Radio, as you know, every Tuesday, 6 till 7. Right, well, my usual team today is one down. Unfortunately, Mr. Cutler can't make it today, but he'll be back next week. But we still have Mr. Graham Bandera. So welcome, Graham.
Morning, you all right?
Very good, very good.
Good to see you all. And two special guests as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, we have not one, but two special guests today. We have Phil Spencer. So welcome, Phil. You okay?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much for having me.
And we have the greatest Australian since, who shall we say, Harold Bishop? We have, of course, everybody's favourite Australian, Rye. So welcome, Rye.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
Dicko, Bandy, Spence, good to see you, lads. Thanks for having me all the way from down under, where you were telling me the quality of my video is better than what's going on in the UK or something like that. So, Aussie.
Before we start, just, Rye, give us where we can find you on the socials.
Oh, well, you can find
everywhere.
Me at Inrictus. You can find me in the neighbours, at the neighbours' houses, because normally I'm being played in there. Not due to the thing, but no, just Inrictus everywhere. But honestly, please, typical Boro pod, that's where you got to be. Don't worry about me. This is the boys.
And Phil, where can we find you on the socials, please?
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah,
Phil's everywhere as well.
Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere, spouting Boro rubbish everywhere. So, yeah.
Good, lads. Right, come on, we'll get into it. It's been an international break. You'd think there'd be nothing to talk about on Planet Boro. Straight in there, international break, we find out that we have a couple of injuries to our midfield players.
It's a surprise.
Yeah, so Aidan Morris apparently has a knee sprain in training with the USA. Doesn't sound great. And also today we found out that Hayden Hackney pulled out the under-21 squad, rolled his ankle possibly in training for the under-21s. So how big a blow, if we're moving towards obviously our next game away to Oxford, would it be to have both of those players missing? So I'll start with you, Phil.
It's a massive blow, to be honest. It was literally the start of this international break where I think it was on Twitter or Blue Sky or one of the two of them anyway, where I was saying about just how important those two players are for Middlesbrough, just how they really are the beating heart of Middlesbrough's team. How Aidan Morris is probably the most undroppable player in our team at the moment. So to lose not just him but Hayden Hackney as well, it's a bit of a disaster. Obviously we don't know how long they're both going to be out for. Like, we still need to find out a few of the finer details about what sort of happened, but the prospect of losing them even just for a few weeks, particularly when we're in November now and heading into the Christmas period where it's going to be the old Tuesday, Saturday, and even more fixtures than that as well. It could be really bad for Middlesbrough because it's those two are just going to be a massive miss, particularly with so many games coming up.
Andy, the international breaks are an absolute pet hate of yours. So this news that's come through today, I bet you're absolutely fuming, I take it, mate.
Fuming and not surprised. It's like you were saying, the Boro meme. It's typical Boro. That's why we named the podcast Typical Boro. These things happen to us. They never seem to happen to any other teams. It's just us all the time. And like Phil just mentioned, they are two pivotal players. They have kick-started our season. And Morris, for me, has been the most consistent player this season. He's ran games for us on his own at times. He's a phenomenal player. He's going to be a massive miss. A knee strain, I'd look possibly at 4 to 6 weeks, would you say?
That's what it reckons for a knee sprain, yeah.
Probably the standard time to be out, and then obviously it takes a bit more time to get up to speed again with match fitness. And again, like Phil says, with a lot of games coming thick and fast, he's going to have to come back and get straight back into it. I wouldn't put it past him for him to be able to do that because he's a terrific player. Hayden, again, another massive miss. He's had some barnstorming games this season, in between some mediocre ones. He's just starting to find his feet now. But he's a vital player for us. We know how good he is. So, yeah, devastated. Absolutely devastated. I don't quite know what to say. We're talking about players now that aren't going to be playing for us. Hopefully the Hackney one isn't as severe as we first think. Rolling your foot in training or your ankle, they can heal fairly quickly, possibly a week or two, but we don't know. Until they get back to the training pitch, we can't really assess.
At the peak, it's arguably the best midfield duo in the championship if they're both playing at the best. So
absolutely, and that's why we've been getting great results, because they're pivotal to what we do. They're pivotal to how we play. So they come and receive from the defence. They turn. They make passes left. They make passes right. Morris in particular makes forward passes. So yeah, massive miss. If Johnny comes in, great. I wouldn't be too averse to that situation, because he's a great player, his house, and great leader as well, and he has an influence on the pitch. Balazar is a different beast altogether. For me, he's a good footballer. Technically, he's excellent, but he's just a little bit too passive for me in games that are coming out of thick and fast. They sort of take him by a little bit. So I'm a bit concerned that the mix of the ingredients in the middle of the park won't be there.
Bandy's just touched on it there, right? Do we have the cover to get through maybe the next 2 or 3 games if they're both out missing?
Yeah, look, Dom Shaw from the Northern Echo, who's the one that breaks these news, I hate him. He's dead to me. He follows me on all the socials, and I've blocked him.
He's a good lad, is Dom.
We do love you, but stop it. You know what I mean? We don't want to hear it. Aidan Morris is a massive loss with the knee. Obviously, he has just been phenomenal. And it's the things you don't notice that he's been doing that have been a credit to all of us. I mean, even the game against Luton, I mean, he stopped, he slid in the box in that first 15 minutes when Luton was starting to get a bit of a wrangle on us. Obviously, we know how it ended up, but Aidan Morris stopped, one of their pivotal movements, when we saw it go into the box and the striker passed it back, and he was going to launch one at Senny Dieng, but Aidan Morris was there to stop it. So he's a massive loss. And then his partner in crime in Hayden Hackney, you take both of them out, and it hurts. It's the engine room. It's where everything starts, everything stops. The best thing we can see with the Boro this season is squad depth. We've actually got cover in most areas, thank goodness. You like Howson, you like Dan Balasta to come in, so you got 2 regular names there. You've probably got Law McCabe waiting in the wings as well. I would say young Law McCabe, I think, is a fan. He doesn't look out of place when he's come in as well. So look, the depth is there. So yes, it hurts. You know what I mean? Yes, it hurts. But that's what, as Michael Carrick will probably say in his press conference, because he's so good looking and he can talk well. He'll just say, look, that's why we got a squad. Do you know what I mean? Because you got the likes of Johnny Howson, who's played a little bit this season. Dan Balassa came on and scored his first goal, so they're both raring to go. This is now their opportunity to come in now and make a name for themselves. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of criticism for Hackney in certain games. I think it was the Coventry game, or obviously with the yellow card and stuff. So look, now this is time for Balassa, Howson to shine. But no, it hurts definitely. Aidan Morris for me especially.
So we'll go from the bad news from the international break at the moment to the good news, and I'll come to Bandy, because this guy is being labelled as the most exciting player he's seen in a Middlesbrough shirt since Juninho, which is high praise
Riley
indeed.
McGree.
So we'll come to Riley McGree shortly, right? I promise I will. But first of all, we'll talk about Mr. Ben Doak, Bandy, against
absolutely
Croatia.
love him.
Did you watch the game?
I watched the game. Yeah, I did watch the game because I wanted to watch him. I miss him when I don't see him. He's that good. I just want to see him. I just want to be part of his life. No, he's class. In all honesty, he's a brilliant little player. I get excited when a player bursts onto the scene, to use that famous phrase, and he certainly has. He's been brilliant for us. Even when he has a quieter game, he's still active. He's still on the periphery of creating something. He can go at his man. He's hungry for the ball. He fronts up to his man. He goes left. He goes right. In the main, he's going outside of his man now and getting crosses in, hitting that front post, which I said last week. I think we've been working on that in training to get bodies into the box, flood the box, somebody get on the end of something. We saw at QPR, Riley's goal, brilliant. I don't even know how we got on the end of that. It was a great finish, but it was all about Doak winning that ball and just going at his man. And he did that to Gvardiol, a world-class centre-back, left-back, whatever you want to call him. God knows how much he's worth at Man City. Phenomenal defender. And tore him to shreds, absolutely tore him to shreds. And I think the move of the game was where he received it on the touchline. He's had a little glance and he's just flicked it through his legs. And then he's got the strength. He's no smaller than me, I don't think. He's just got in front of Gvardiol, brushed him aside like he wasn't there, and just gone on this tearing run and delivered a beautiful ball in the box, which sadly nobody got in the end of. But yeah, brilliant player. And I think he's groomed for the Mo Salah position for many years to come. He will play 300 games for Liverpool, no doubt. He's a brilliant player. And he's the out ball now for Scotland. They're talking about him now as being their best player, and he's only just turned 19. So
I was on a different podcast last week, Scott Ball. I got asked to go on there to give my opinion on, obviously, Tommy Conway and Ben Doak. And I said within the next 12 months, Tommy Conway and Ben Doak will be permanent fixtures in the Scotland front three. And you've got a real talent that if he's managed properly, could be a real international star in Ben Doak. And that was before the Croatia game. So Ben Doak, thanks for that. You made me look like an expert on Scott Ball. So I'll come to Phil. How good do you think, Phil, that Ben Doak could be if he's managed properly? Are we looking at a Premier League player? Are we looking at a top international player? How highly do you rate him, what you've seen so far, Phil?
I think he's capable of being all of that and more, to be honest. I think he's someone who really does have the world at his feet, you've got to say. I mean, these sorts of talents, they come along fairly often. People come along with high levels of potential, and people who can go on to become those sorts of players. But I think what you see with Ben Doak, as well as the technical ability that Bandy was talking about there, is the character that he's got. He's got that sort of that rugged aggression to his play, that kind of determination that he wants to go on and he wants to do it. He's not someone who, you can tell he hasn't come to Middlesbrough for a free ride. He hasn't come here going, I'm better than this lot. Come on, just give me the ball. Just let's kind of like going through the motions. He's someone who's really here to make an impression. He's someone who wants to get fans off their seat. It's that sort of aggression which will really serve him well moving forward, because he's not going to back down from a challenge. He's not someone who is thinking, I've made it. I'm a Scotland star. I'm doing well in the Championship with Middlesbrough. I'm on Liverpool's books. I'm on a big contract. I'm doing all right. He's someone who will want to kick on, who will want to establish himself at Liverpool in the long term. And ultimately, like Bandy said as well, someone who probably will be thinking, I can replace Mo Salah. I've got the potential to do that. And that's what he'll be hoping to do.
He's definitely got that mindset. His interview was telling after the game, where he was taken off, standing ovation, and he thought that happened to all players that come off. He's just so humble as well. So he knows how good he is, but he's careful in how he's approaching it. He's not getting too carried away with himself, but he's class, absolutely class.
Just bring Rye in here. Rye, because you're quite excitable in that bedroom.
A little bit. I like to keep it calm.
Do you get any palpitations after watching Ben Doak tearing Croatia apart and start to worry a little bit about, could Liverpool want to recall him in January if he continues to play at that level?
It's an interesting one with Ben Doak, because he reminds me of a young me. Do you know what I mean? The talent, the looks, the Scottish accent. Maybe he's got that flair of the Riley McGree to him as well, does he? So no, look, honestly, 18 years old from Liverpool. I mean, when he came in, the signs were there, weren't they? We beat off 8-9 other clubs to get his signature. Michael Carrick said that he's been watching him for 2 years, since he was 16, for goodness sake. And he comes in and he's just dominating. And everything Middlesbrough do is through Ben Doak down that right. And it's coming through Ailing or Jike Steele, you know what I mean? We're all sitting behind him, and he's just incredible to be 18 and that talented, to be able to take on, he's got 2-3 defenders to get it cut when he cuts back into that box to get around it. He either passes back, gets it to Riley, like you were saying, Bandy, as well. So yeah, look, he's incredible. And I watched him against Croatia, because my family and my wife is Croatian, so they were devastated. But I was like, well, Ben Doak, Boro. So and yeah, Gvardiol, he's 80 million. Do you know what I mean? On the main stage.
Is that what he is? 80?
Yeah,
wow.
That's what Man City paid for him for that. And you know what I mean? And he's this 18-year-old who's on loan at our club has just destroyed him. Do you know what I mean? And Pep's probably sitting there going, well, somebody get on the phone. Do you know what I mean?
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, look, I did see an article about the recall there, Dicko, and look, it's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, if Liverpool see him as part of their future, and that you guys are saying he's going to be the next Mo Salah, then you keep him here at the Boro. He's just settled in. He had a horror injury last season, so this is his first sort of 12 months or so of proper football back to back. And as a Liverpool coach, I think if you put your sensible hat on, you're probably going, right, I want to see consistency. You're young. I want to see the body hold up to, because championship's going to come thick and fast now. You know what I mean? We're going to have, Saturday, Wednesday for a good couple of months through really cold nights as well. This is where it's going to test, the body as a young 18-year-old. How's he going to handle that up? How's his consistency going to be? And then you bring him back at the end of the season and you do that, you have another look. If he continues on this form though, and a Real Madrid, Borussia, whatever it is, comes in January, and Liverpool are interested, they need the money or whatever, then we're in dire straits. But I think he's got a big Liverpool future from hearing Arne Slot talk about him with the pride and passion he does, that he doesn't want to let him go. So I think in his head, the best thing you can do is seeing Ben flourish. And right now he's doing it at the Boro. I'm not sure why you would disrupt that in January as a progression for such a young man, because I feel like, uprooting and moving an 18-year-old to another club, whether it be Premier League, whatever it means, it's just going to you want to see settled consistency and get through it. And thank the Lord, that's at our great club.
Summed that up to perfection there, right? I think I like Arne Slot. I think he's a very cool, calm, calculated guy who's gone there for a long-term project. And I look at Dork and he's definitely a long-term project. I don't see any reason why they would suddenly think, oh, he's doing well, let's call him back. Because he would only sit on the bench. He ain't going to replace Mo Salah just yet, because Salah's in the form of his life. He's having a bit of a renaissance. If he stays another season or two, that's great news for us. But it looks like, the Saudi dollar might sort of entice him away and, have a few years in the sun, so to speak. But I don't think there's any rush for Dork to sort of go back to Liverpool. And I don't think Slot would entertain any Premier League interest at this moment in time either, even if it was for serious money. I think Liverpool have got him for good. And while it's doing well for us, it's benefiting us, it's also benefiting them. But I don't see any urgency from Liverpool to recall him. I
listened to Craig Hignett on the Red with John Henry yesterday, and I was encouraged that Craig thinks Middlesbrough will definitely have him for the season unless there's an injury crisis at Liverpool, because to go back there now when they're pushing for the league title, he's not going to get in, like Craig said, ahead. They've got so many players in their positions, in Jota, Gakpo, Diaz, Salah,
They don't need to panic and get
him. They've got these players. He's just going to sit on the bench and he'll not get any game time. So Craig Hignett really thinks that he'll be really surprised if he's not at Middlesbrough for the season. So anyway, Rye, you've mentioned him only twice so far in the first few minutes of the show.
Yep.
So I am going to come here on Mr. Riley McGree, because we seem to have a debate about Riley McGree every international break, me and Bandy, and we get infuriated with him, before he goes away, being used sparingly, disappearing up to Oz, playing 90-minute performances, playing really well, then coming back to Teesside and sitting on the bench again. What's your take on the Riley McGree club v country debate?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. For those that don't watch Riley in the Socceroos, in the Australian sort of scope of things, Riley is one of, if not the best midfielder Australia have got at this current time. There's no one else like a Riley McGree for the Socceroos that they can rely to. So to say Riley McGree is important to Australia's hopes in the World Cup, in the Asian Cup, and everything that we're a part of is a complete understatement. For those that don't know, one of the greatest goals we saw in recent times in the World Cup was set up by Riley McGree. Do you know what I mean? So look, he's got so much of a weight of on his shoulders when it comes to country football. And then you come back to club football and he's just part of the squad. And, and Michael Carrick is using that squad, and he's in a position there where he's got now Bergzorg, who's just come on and scored 2 goals. He's got Finn Azaz, who's incredible as well. He's got, obviously, Ben Doak on the right-hand side. So where do you slot a Riley McGree into that as well? It's incredible to see, the squad depth we've got, because last season, albeit he was injured, we needed Riley McGree, but this season you can afford to leave him on the bench and we can beat Luton 5-1 for goodness sake. So it's incredible. Look, he's in my eyes still Riley McGree, and I'm trying to, and I don't like to be biased and stuff like this. I do love him, but I'll put that to one side. You know what I mean? He is my best mate. I'll put that to the other side. You know what I mean? He asked me for a coffee the other day. I'll put that to the other side as well. He he's still one of the best players at Middlesbrough. On his day, he is still one of the best players at Middlesbrough. Think of the goals that he creates, the effort from Ben Doak at QPR. Do you know what I mean? He's latching onto them. He's in those positions where we get so frustrated as Boro fans to go, just latch one, just launch it for goodness sake, fire at the, and he does that. Think of the goal that Ben Doak scored. That was off a Riley McGree crack at goal. Do you know what I mean? So he's very, very important for Middlesbrough, and I think Carrick knows that. We all know that as well, but we are in a fortunate time in our club history where we've got such good squad depth in and around that area that we can afford to give him a rest, especially when he's got to fly to Australia. Now he's off to Bahrain to play Bahrain on Tuesday night, and then he's back to Middlesbrough. Do you know what I mean? In the space of two, we all, we're all seasoned veterans of travel. Do you know what I mean? That's a long way to go in a space of 2 weeks to then come back and play club football. So yeah, look, I kind of get it, but I still see him as one of the best players at the club easily.
See, this is the thing with having a good squad and good players. You tend to have a lot of international players if you've got a good squad.
Yeah.
In my sort of cynical brain, looking ahead towards the Oxford game, Phil, is already we know Rav Vandenberg isn't going to make the game. It's probably going to be highly likely now that we're not going to have Aidan Morris or Hayden Hackney for the Oxford game. Riley McGree is going to turn up, knackered, jet-lagged, because of the reasons Rise just said, and probably stuck on the bench. Is there a concern now looking at that Oxford game? Because for me, those are 4 starting players out of our 11 that probably won't be there.
It's always a concern. It's always something that you come back from the international break, and it's always something that's a little bit of an issue. Certainly when you do pick up injuries like this. I mean, it's just frustrating that our international players happen to be from the far-flung corners of the world, and not. We need more players who are representing Wales and England and Scotland to kind of reduce those air miles slightly. But I think going into the Oxford game, I think as we've been kind of mentioning, I think the fact that we do have such squad depth is a really good thing. I think it's something which will serve us well against Oxford, but also going through the winter months. Hopefully hopefully the likes of Morris, and we mentioned Hackney before, hopefully they'll be back before too long. Riley McGree, I think obviously he's been at the club for a little while now. I think they kind of know how to handle him, and he might not be ready to start against Oxford, but he's a fit lad. He's someone who will be ready for the following week, and that's just something that Michael Carrick kind of knows how to handle now, really. And as we saw against Luton, Delano Bergsorg is someone who really took his opportunity against Luton, and so I personally wouldn't have any qualms if he was starting against Oxford, with Riley McGree being given a bit of a rest to get over the jet lag.
Yeah. Last little bit of international news from the Borough, of course, was Morgan Rogers got his England debut, which give us another little ka-ching, a little bit of more cash injection for the January window. That puts the deal probably now to its 16 million total, because it was 11 million plus 5 million in bonuses, which obviously he's racked up through appearances, goals, Champions League football, and now getting his international debut. And on a previous podcast, you guys might have heard me say that I thought Middlesbrough should be looking at 15 million for Morgan Rogers, and everybody said I'd been bumped on the head. Well, I haven't been bumped on the head. I was spot on, so there you go, have a bit of that. So the 15, 16 million deal we've now got, is that looking a good deal, or should we have actually got some more? Because Morgan Rogers now, what's his worth? And I'll come to you, Bandy.
He's probably doubled his price tag, plus a little bit more, I guess. I think he's under good guidance now with Unai Emery. When we got him, he was still quite raw. You could see the potential. He's a very, very technically gifted footballer. I used to like him playing on the left, coming in on his right foot and just trying to weave little patterns through midfield. His final ball wasn't quite there with us, but since he's gone to Villa, fantastic club. It's probably one of the best clubs he could have gone to be honest, for development. The way they're kicking on under Emery, he's under great guidance there with him. So he just looks like he's been finely tuned now, and he's turned into a top player. I wouldn't go overboard too much and say he's phenomenal. I've heard some words being bandied out about there regarding his talent, but he's not far off being a very, very, very good player. But I think he just needs to keep his feet on the ground a little bit. But yeah, he's a good player, very good.
The exciting part of the deal for me, which I thought Middlesbrough done well, was get a large sell-on clause injected. So
Yeah,
if he moves on from Villa, he's obviously going to go to one of the top clubs in Europe, which could be mega money. So Middlesbrough eventually could end up doing very, very well out the deal. So we have got a little bit extra cash injection now through the clause has been released going into January. Just looking ahead towards January, it's not that far away. If I was going to ask you, Rai, if we could bring in one player to improve this squad, or one position to improve this squad, what would you pick?
Well, first and most, I would use the money to get a certain Australian on a first-class flight to the Boro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's just common sense. And then player-wise, look, it's an interesting thing. I mean, do we look at you look up front, you got Tommy Conway, Latte Lath. There's your strike force. If one of them gets injured, maybe, you know what I mean? You've then got such a strong back, front three in Finn Azaz, Riley McGree, Bergsorg, Ben Doak, you know what I mean? Izzy Jones and all that sort of ready to go. Then you got the four in the, so look, at the moment, maybe the centre backs just due to injury, because it's just so many questions around where is Lenihan. We saw Dale Fry just return. Rav Vandenberg's had a bit of a hit and miss now. You've got Edmondson on loan. Do you turn that into a permanent potentially? You know what I mean? And then you've got Matt Clark there as well. So look, I'd be still looking into the defensive half rather than the offensive half. I still think there is some worries in that sort of left back role as well. I mean, once Bangura comes back, I think that goes away. But Neto Borges obviously has settled in well. I think he's impressive. Luke Ayling and Dyke still, I think, in the right back role are exciting, but there's no one young and fit coming through there. You've got Tommy Smith, who's plus 30, Luke Ayling plus 30, Dyke Still's 28, 27, somewhere around there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So there's when in the left back, you got young George McCormick. So maybe an exciting young right back for me as well. So that's where I'd be sort of leaning towards. But look, Kieran Scott and Chris Jones, the chief scout, they have lists drawn up well in advance, and I'm sure they'll be already knowing who to target. For me, I'd be looking defensively just because of the cover of the injuries we've had with Ram Vandenberg, Darragh Lenihan. Don't know what's happening with him. Dale Fry come on, but you could tell how rusty he was, the poor lad, when he could have kicked it and he tried to head it from a metre off the ground. Yeah. It was so it's just around that area for me, I think, is where you need to be sort of, probably investing come January. And then obviously injuries, don't you? We're talking right now and then. Maybe in January, we haven't seen Aidan Morris return. We haven't seen Hayden Hackney. Turns out he's rolled ankle. His ankle's fallen off or something, maybe you have to get someone in there to cover. So I think you'll be sort of reactive in January, plus having a look at your list. And we all know how much prices inflate in January as well. So you got to be careful.
Phil, would you agree with Rai, or would you pick a different position to strengthen in January?
I think I do agree with Rai. It's really tricky because of how much cover we've got in so many different positions. It's really kind of hard to pick out one area that we really need to improve on. I do agree about the right back situation. I do think that's possibly a position that we maybe will look to strengthen with a young quality, high potential option, possibly next summer. But it's not an urgent one because Dyke Steele's performing way above expectation this season. Luke Ayling, we know exactly what he's about. Tommy Smith, obviously, he's a long-term absentee. So it is something that I think we'll need to look at in the future. But for now, I think it's absolutely fine. And then other than that, I think it's just going to be a case of seeing where we are when we get to January. Should we be in a situation, as we mentioned before, where if Ben Doak does get recalled, and obviously that opens up a position that we'd need to strengthen there. Should someone come in and sign Rav Vandenberg, we might need to sign cover at centre-back, or if someone comes in for Hackney, we might need to sign someone there. But I think as it stands at the moment, I think we're in a really good position. I think the squad's looking healthy, and so I think Michael Carrick and Kieran Scott will be quite comfortable, really, going into January, that there's not really too much business that needs to be done.
Yeah. Graham?
Yeah, well, we're in a good place squad-wise. I mean, I said at the start of the season, it's probably one of the best squads I've seen for years and years. Hence me predicting we're capable of a top 2 finish. I'm still sticking by that. The only thing I would probably add is an aggressor, just an old wise head, possibly a Premier League player that doesn't get a game so much. Just somebody to come into the dressing room and just see things differently. Just have a bit more of a forceful nature around the place. We just seem a little bit weak at times in terms of being able to smell danger, see games out. So just somebody who can be a bit horrible, be a bit ugly in the middle of the park. Howson's great. He's probably the best at doing that, but you wouldn't say he's a sort of a natural aggressor, a sort of a Roy Keane type. I think we just We just miss that type of player. So it'd be nice to have somebody like that. We tried that with Sam Morsey some years ago, and then we released him, and then he ended up being Player of the Year twice for Ipswich and 2 promotions. So credit to him. We got the guy from West Brom, was it? Mauer? Yeah, he started to play quite well for us, and then it all went belly up with Chris Wilder, and then he was moved on. So just somebody like that who can just get his foot on the ball, maybe see the game out if we're 1-0 up, 15 minutes to go. Just be a little bit more streetwise, and also possibly cover for the 2 fullback positions, more so on the left than the right. But I've quite enjoyed Luke Ayling actually playing left back for a couple of games.
Yes.
He's done really well, because I thought, oh, this is a bit tricky. But Luke's naturally right-footed, so he's got a tendency just to drop his shoulder and come inside and play a simple ball. And he can pass. He's a good passer with the ball. So yeah, I'm not too uncomfortable with that dynamic at the moment. I think it works quite well. So overall, I'm delighted really with the way things are going.
I touched on Latialat before there. Would any of you guys be prepared to sell Latialat in January if an Ipswich came back or another Premiership club come in with another 20 million offer on the table in January? Would that be a head turner, or would you rather Steve Gibson and Michael Carrick did what they did in the summer and said, no, we're keeping the best players, we're trying to get promoted? Because at the moment, we've got 2 really good strikers who we can rotate, who are both in form, both scoring goals, and are both looking over the shoulder. Would any of you guys consider another bid for Latialat in January? I'll come to you, Phil.
I think for me, it depends where his head's at, to be honest. Obviously, the transfer deadline day, I was going to call it a saga. You can't really call it a saga when it was over within like 3 hours, can you? But it was a situation where he clearly had his head turned by the opportunity to play in the Premier League. Since then, yes, they've done the whole PR thing by saying, oh no, he's fully committed, he's a good lad around the squad and that sort of thing. But he's not the mainstay up front that he was before. He has dropped out of the team, and I know that's down to Tommy Conway doing very well when he's had his opportunity as well. But for me, it just kind of depends where his head's at, really. If his head has been turned and he's someone who does want to move on, if that opportunity comes in, then I think it probably would be right to cash in on him, because we can't be having this every transfer window. We can't be having someone who is itching to get out at the first opportunity. So if someone did come in and they offered decent money for him, and he was interested in going, I think we should consider it. Yeah, I think that'd probably be my stance on it. I think I'd certainly consider it. I don't think he's as unsellable as he maybe was over the summer. I know he's done well for us and he's scored a few goals, but I don't think he's as indispensable as he was. And to be honest, his market value's probably gone down slightly as well, just after what happened with the whole Ipswich debacle as well.
I've got a feeling, Mr. Bandy, I might agree with you. So I'll come to you, Graham. What's your thoughts?
His resurgence in the last three or four games, I'd say, that this goal against Sheffield United, when he come on, his attitude was bang on. Prior to that, I didn't think his attitude was right. He couldn't trap a bag of cement. He looked a completely different player. I think that move, whether he tried to engineer it or his agent did, was just completely wrong. And I thought Carrick handled it really well, benched him, forced him to come back with a different attitude. And as I say, his last 3 or 4 games, he's been great. So I would like to continue that dynamic now. We don't need any more sort of destabilisation at this stage. Things are ticking along quite nicely. So if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So try and keep him here for the mainstay of the season and promise him a move in the summer if he does really, really want to go. But he might find that he gets another 20 goals from now till the end of the season and we end up either promoted or in a playoff spot. So things could change quite quickly, but I would be trying to persevere with him, keep him sweet and promise him a move in the summer if he does want to go. But just tell him to get his head down, keep working hard, because it's working now, so we don't really want to rip that up. So right. I would keep him.
Would you cash in or keep?
Yeah, look, it depends I think every player, no matter how loyal, how much we love them, has their price tag. At the end of the day, it's a business, isn't it? It's easy to forget that when it comes to football. Steve Gibson has turnover. We've seen all that with, price, ticket sales and everything like that. And I think every player, no matter how good, how much we love them, has a price tag. So it depends for me when and if it comes in. If Ipswich come in on January the 1st and it's 25 mil, you probably look at that and maybe spend a month trying to replace him sort of thing. So if it comes in on deadline day again, then you can't. And I think that's what was Carrick and Kieran Scott's, and that's was that we didn't have time to replace him, and would have left us just with Tommy Conway. So if we've got time to replace him and the offer's there again, and he's interested, he wants to go and chase that, then I can't hate on him for that. We're all in positions at work and in our life where we're chasing goals of our own, where we want promotions and all that sort of stuff into different roles, and he's just looking to play at the top level of his game while he still can, while he's wanted, and I can't hate him for that. So look, if from a Boro point of view, he's got a price tag. If they meet it and we've got time to replace him, then of course I think then you have to seriously look at that, because that's what you do in football. You get a player for 2-3 million and you turn him into a 20-25 million. That's great business, isn't it? So that's and that's sort of what we're about at the moment. So I think look, if it comes in early doors, I think you look at it. I don't want him to go. Of course, I love Latte. I think I love him at the club. I think his passion and he's that excitement machine, and he comes off that bench at the moment, and I just think there's so much more there for Latte to grow into, especially at our club. So, especially under Michael Carrick now as well. So, I don't want him to go, it'd be through, tears that he does, but I have to be realistic. We've all seen it with Adama and all the players over the previous years. Every player's got their price tag, and if it's met with time for our club to replace him, I think you have to look at it for sure.
Yeah. So we're looking ahead to Oxford. We've got Oxford on the 23rd away, Blackburn at home on the 27th, and Hull City at home on the 30th of November. That, to me, strikes as an opportunity to continue our rise up the table. What would you guys expect from those three fixtures? Because coming straight after that, right after those three games, you've got Burnley on the 6th of December away and Leeds on the 10th of December away, which are both obviously massive fixtures and tricky fixtures. Well, all are tricky in the Championship, as we know. But these three games particularly, Oxford, Blackburn and Hull, two of them being at home. What do you think Middlesbrough need to pull out of those fixtures to stabilise us in the top six? What do you think, Graham?
We've got to push hard. We've got to go for 9 points. If we got aspirations to get promoted, we need to be winning minimum of 2 of them games and not losing the other one. So 7 points, I'll happily take, but 9 is got to be the game. 3 beatable teams there. Hull are in disarray. Oxford, very, very poor, really. We should beat them. And Blackburn, strange side, we'd never tend to do quite well against them. So that's possibly where the draw might come. But you've got to look for getting 9 points. We're more than capable. The only concern is if we end up at that Oxford game with a depleted team against a home side that are, fighting for every point, and we might come a cropper there, but you've got to look at 9 points, really.
We've been so inconsistent this season, Phil. We've only put back-to-back victories together twice so far this season. Do you have any confidence going into these 3 games that we can extend this run?
I have confidence, but I think experience tells me that it's not going to be as easy as it should be. I think you look back at the start of the season and the fixtures that were thrown out through August, and they were pretty easy on paper. I think compared to a lot of teams who were going to be challenging at the top end of the Championship, our run was particularly easy, and we didn't really make the most of it, which is a little bit of what the concern is. It's always a frustration as well when the international break comes round and it sort of stops our positive form in its tracks. It always seems to take us a little while to kind of get going. Again, once we come back, and it could be because, as we mentioned, we've got players flying back from the US or from Australia or wherever it might sort of be. But I think, like Bandy said, I really think we've got to be targeting 7 to 9 points out of those 3 games. We're in a position now in the league where we're doing all right. We're just about where we should be, or where we'd sort of hope to be, I guess. But I think now's the time where we really need to kick on, because the last thing that we want is to be getting to February, March and playing this stupid game where we're going, well, we're only 5 points off the playoffs. We're only 4 points off the playoffs. So if we can just
spot on,
win
Phil.
these next 2, then we'll be there or thereabouts. I think
Brilliant.
we really need to seize the initiative and get ourselves in there so that we're in control of our own destiny, as stupid as that sounds.
If Phil and Bandy are right, and we can somehow manage to keep a bit of consistency going, right, and get 7 to 9 points from those games, how big are the Burnley and Leeds away games going to be? Because Burnley and Leeds we know are going to be in there, thereabouts at the end of the season in that top 4. Those 2 fixtures could be massive, couldn't they?
Yeah, they really could. Obviously, going in the next 3 games, with the 2 games we've come off just previously, I'm going in against Oxford thinking probably 8 to 9-0, let alone 9 points over the next 3. And that's what I want to see. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. I mean, at the moment, we're that good. We'd probably win the Champions League against Barcelona if we needed to. I'm honestly we're on a super high. We've scored 9 goals in the past 2 games. We're 5-1 and then a 4 against, QPR. And this is the only thing that I hate about international breaks, if it has killed our momentum, then the next 3 games get us up to speed. It takes that, a little bit to click again. You're trying to look at who's replaced Hackney and Morris and all this sort of stuff. And then you come against Burnley and Leeds. Well, then, obviously it's just going to be tough going, isn't it? And just like the classic Boro, podcast is called Typical Boro, is it typical Boro that we lose the consistency after smacking 9 goals in the past 2 games to go and throw 3 points against Oxford? We lose 3-0 to Blackburn somehow, and then it's just, it's just... So, look, I still think we've clicked. I honestly think it's clicked. We've seen it coming. We've seen the performances there since the start of the season that we were going to demolish some teams. We've now seen that where we are... All those chances created, that XG... that they talk about is starting
we
to
don't talk XG on here, right?
You don't talk XG? Okay.
Banned, it's banned.
That unnamed word. So look, I think we've clicked, and I think we're going to still see some very terrific Borough performances because they're at the Riverside. And Leeds, Burnley, I've never heard of them because the Borough going up.
Perfect. Graham, we're going to come to you. A little bit of off-field news over the last few days. Half-season cards are back, and also Middlesbrough are going to introduce safe standing. So we're going to have blocks 58 to 60 in the south stand with the rails seating in to try and drum up the atmosphere. And if that's exciting and it's a success, they could extend it to other parts of the stadium. And the half-season cards are back, and I looked, after our first 8 games last season, our average attendance was 27,115. This season, average attendance is 24,995. So that's over 2,000 down on last season. So they brought back the half-season cards. Do you think the safe standing and the half-season cards are both positive ideas?
Absolutely, yeah, very positive. The half-season card is something that we've done for quite a while now, and normally we've got the pricing structure pretty spot on, but I've looked at the prices for half-season cards this time round, and they're very expensive. So
well, I'll tell you what they are. £323 for an adult, £244 over 65. So these are starting prices. £192 for 18 to 21s and £119 for under 18s. So if you go off the normal match day ticket, which is £30, if you get the 323 adult ticket, it knocks it down to about £26.91 per game. So £3.09 save per game. Still seems on the pricey side to me.
Yeah, I think
but a good idea.
Absolutely a good idea, yeah. I'm all for initiatives like that. And like you say, the safe standing is a good idea. I thought they could have done it in a block rather than rows, because I'm not sure the dynamic of that would actually work. It might seem a bit strange. Certainly the placement of the red faction this season hasn't quite worked for me. Up in the corner, they were great there. Now they're behind the goal, but for whatever reason, they're not turning up at the moment. So there's something not right there. But the safe standing is a good idea. I witnessed that at Stamford Bridge in the Cup last season, and it's a good idea. I think fans are pushing for that all the time. It is a good initiative. I'm all for standing anyway. I mean, most people I know go to the game stand anyway, whether they're in a seat or not. I'm lucky that I'm on a back row in the north stand, so I stand all game anyway. So seating is a bit unusual for me.
Thought they might have introduced the safe standing in the north and the south at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It might have been a better thing to do to get both stands and both ends creating the noise and the atmosphere. I know the guys at the back of the north stand anyway, but it might have just been better to do both at the same time. Do you agree with that, Phil?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good initiative. I think anything that can boost the atmosphere and boost the energy in the Riverside is a really good thing. I know the last couple of weeks have been better, but we've all sort of seen those kind of stale, cagey matches at the Riverside where you just need a bit of oomph coming from the stands, and I think it's certainly something that will help it. And I think, yes, as far as the other season cards are concerned, I think it was someone in the marketing department knew exactly what they were doing by releasing them on the back of 2 massive victories, didn't they? So it's both really good ideas, things which hopefully will be able to help us moving forward.
I just got to say, I don't think Sky TV have helped us this season with fixture changes and showing most, if not all, games on TV now as well. So that's had a detrimental effect on crowds, because we're doing really well in the league. We should be doing better, in my opinion, but we're doing well. I still think we get good crowds anyway. I've never really been quite disparaging about the crowd. I think we get healthy crowds. Just the more wins, the higher the crowd will be. It's a simple fact. And if we have a strong run in where we look like we're in with a shout of promotion, then I'm sure we'll be touching 27, 28, 30,000 come the end of the season.
As you just mentioned Sky TV there, they've generously just moved, obviously, the Sunderland Derby game to the Monday night 8 o'clock and shifted the Stoke game to a Friday night. So that was kind of them, wasn't it? I think there's a reason why the South Stand sing that song about Sky Sports.
No.
Correct. Yeah, and they've got every right to, because they're making a stance, and it's a stance that is important for everybody. Really, it's terrible what TV.
Yeah, right, gents. I haven't told you about this, but we're going to have a little bit of fun for the end of the programme since it's an international break. So I've devised a game for us to play. Yeah.
Right.
So you'll have probably seen the Masters football is back. I used to all watch it back in the day. Bernie Slavin,
Class.
scoring the goals.
Go on, Bernie, lad.
Middlesbrough winning the North East Masters on a regular basis, and the full Masters. Well, that's just come back. It's been in Scotland recently. Celtic and Rangers and Aberdeen and all the rest of them playing in it. It's going to come down the country again. The sort of soccer sixes, which we used to watch way back in the 80s, me and Bandy as well. So it's back. So just for a bit of fun between Rye and Phil, we're going to have the typical Boro sixes, right? So what we're going to do is, I'll let who wants to go first with the pick between Phil and Rye.
Go on, Rye, you can do it.
Yeah, I'll go. Yep.
Rye's going to go first, right?
No pressure.
So the rules are, you can pick 6 Boro players.
Yep.
One's got to be a keeper, 2 defenders, 2 midfielders, 1 striker. The players have got to be Middlesbrough players that you have watched in your lifetime. So I'll know if Phil's sort of putting Brian Clough up front that he's cheating, right? Or Rye's wanting Wilf Mannion behind the striker. I know he's taking the mick, right?
Hang on.
We're on to you, right? So and they've also got to be players that can play in a six-a-side team. So some players you might think are natural picks might not be good at soccer sixes. Somebody who is good at six-a-side is Graham Bandera, and he is going to decide who's picked the best Middlesbrough soccer six-side between the two of you.
Like it. Like it.
All right.
Like
Here we go. Well,
So, sorry, one final rule. One final rule. If you pick a player, Phil can't pick the same player, and vice versa.
I should have gone first, shouldn't I?
First pick.
That's why I mentioned that now.
Okay.
So we're going to start with Rye. So we're going to start with the goalkeeping situation. So you need to pick your goalkeeper. I've got a feeling who you might go for, and why you're picking him. So we'll start with Rye.
Mark the Goat Schwarzer, mate. You can't go past the big Aussie. He's still fit. He's on Optus Sport. He looks trim. I saw him eating a steak and broccoli. I mean, I'd have him every day of the week. So my keeper has to be the big Aussie goat, Mark Schwarzer, in goal for me. Easiest decision I've ever had to make. Mark Schwarzer in goal for me.
Right. So Phil, your goalkeeping pick from players you've watched in your lifetime would be who?
I think there's going to be a bit of a theme to Rye's team, isn't there? I can see that coming. I'm going to go with Zach Steffen, the old sweeper keeper. I think he'd be a good pick for a six-a-side team. Get on the ball. Someone who, depending on the rules of how you're playing, sweeper keeper, get on the ball. I'm going to go with Zach Steffen.
I was a big Zach Steffen fan as well, so a good choice. So we'll come to the first defender, Rye.
First defender, I'm going to have to go with someone that not only played with such tenacity, but with blood pouring down his face, and I want that in my six-a-side. I want them to bite the opposition, it's Emmanuel Pogatetz for me in the back, a big Pog. down back. No one's getting around my big Pog, because if they do, they're gonna know about it.
Over to Phil.
It's annoying because I was actually going to pick him because you need that absolute menace at the back. On a similar train of thought, I'm gonna say Danny Mills.
Oh yes, good choice.
Similar thought process. Just someone at the back who will not let anyone pass them and will rough up the opposition a little bit.
You wouldn't want Danny Mills marking you at sixes, I'll give you that. Right, your second defender.
Oh, okay. Second defender now. Look, this is where it gets tough, because you got the menacing in Pogatetz there. You got Mark Schwarzer behind you. You're starting to feel a bit of love. I'm gonna have to go the big Premier League winner, Robert Huth. The big German. I got a big German, and I got Pogatetz. I mean, no one's stopping us. We're going to win everything. So it's Robert Huth and Pogatetz for me. Robert Huth, obviously, he's won the Premier League. He knows how to win. Six-a-side to him, be like a walk in the park.
Phil, can you compete with that?
I'm going with a slightly different thought process here. So I'm going to go with Ryan Giles. Someone who will provide a bit of energy, someone who will be running up and down constantly, because if anyone's like me, when you play six-a-sides, that you start to tire after like 10, 15 minutes or something. So you need someone in the team who will just keep running up and down, and that for me is Ryan Giles.
Right, so we're going to the midfield engine room. Creativity. Are you going creativity or we're going for bite? Who we're coming for, right?
Yeah, look, this is a tough one, and obviously I like Spencer's pick in Ryan Giles, just letting him know that Ryan Giles will get knocked over in the first minute by Robert Huth and be injured, so these down to 5. No, I'm not trying to make bias. I'm just, look, in the midfield, for me, again, I want that I love that tenacity. I want that hunger. I want that fight for the ball. I'm going Lee Cattermole. Lee Cattermole for me, in that midfield, is going to run, and if you're getting around Lee easily with your shins still on, then you've got Pogatetz waiting. So for me, you put Cattermole in that midfield, and I'm happy, man.
Right, you're in danger of picking like a sort of criminal six-a-side team. Yeah.
Dicko, I was about to say, is there a sin bin in this competition?
No cards.
Because most of the Riley's are already in the sin bin looking at this.
Come on, Phil. What we're going for?
I'm going to go with, I'm going to say Aidan Morris. I'm picking him in my team.
Again. Oh, right, you're under pressure now, pal.
Oh, no.
Is it a distinct change in tactic between the two managers? Yeah.
This is, definitely.
One's a footballing purist and one's a killer. And that killer is Rye, and we're coming to him for his second midfield player.
Look,
Did you see Graham Souness? Did you see Graham Souness play right?
I did. You know what I mean? And is Roy Keane? I mean, Roy Keane never stepped. Look, I'm honestly, this is where I have to go to. I need my reliance. Maybe I've got players that are, in the sin bin. I've got only one man left, and I don't really care because this one man would carry us to victory. It's Riley McGree. I mean, how can I not get the GOAT scoring goals from 30, 40 yards out against Phil Spencer's? Ryan Giles he'll be up the pitch while Riley McGree's scoring it from 40 yards out. So I got to get the GOAT in there for me, Riley McGree, 100%.
Phil, big pick for you this.
Yeah. Well, there's only one man for the job, isn't there? If you've got 3 bully boys in Rye's team, you've got to be going with someone like Juninho, someone who's going to be darting around them, and someone who's going to be flying out of those challenges. And
Juninho. Juninho is going to be running through Pogatetz's legs. So we'll come to the final pick of the striker. Ooh. This could make or break both of you guys. So pick wisely. It's Rye with his striking pick.
Yes. Listen, this is tough. There is so many boys that I have watched over the years that have been, you think of Chuba Akpom, 29 goals. You think of Yakubu. Jimmy Floyd. I mean, all these boys in my era. I'm gonna have to stick, and I know my brothers in arms will get me across the line. So it's Big Duke, Mark Viduka up front. He's the size, the poacher, the menace on the end of the Riley McGree, the Aussie connection there. I know he won't let me down. So yeah, put Big Duke up front, mate. And this, team of criminals that are winning everything, I take that any day of the week.
Final pick, Phil.
Magnificent.
I'm going to be going for similar era, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Someone who can provide a bit of bit of aggression up front, but someone who will give them a split second, they'll get a shot away, and the goalkeeper's absolutely not stopping it. So yeah, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
Mark Schwarzer. Yeah, I mean,
So I'll just run through the teams before we get the verdict from the expert, Mr. Bandera. So we've got Rye with Mark Schwarzer, Pogatetz, Robert Huth, Lee Cattermole, Riley McGree, and Mark Viduka sticking the ball away. And Phil has gone Zach Steffen, Danny Mills, Ryan Giles, Aidan Morris, Juninho, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank for the goals. So I'll cross it to our expert summariser, Mr. Bandera. Who's taking the trophy?
Right, this is a brilliant competition. Well played, Dicko. I didn't know we were doing this. This is class. You put me on the spot a little bit, but this is fun. Let's get this clear, right? This is a subjective competition. So I don't want anyone falling out with me or unfollowing me on Twitter, Blue Sky, or whatever we do these days, right? We're all mates. But being the football purist that I am, Phil has swung it for me with his Juninho for how can you not, right, put Juninho in a 5-a-side or 6-a-side team?
Look,
mate, that was the clanger.
I mean, I mean, it's my go. I can't look. When he said the little fella, I mean, I knew I was done for. I did. I really did.
You would have swung it if you'd have took Cattermole out and put the little fella in, because then you've got a nice balance of skill and strength and ill discipline.
Yep.
But looking
I just
at
want to
Phil's
let you
team,
know that little fella would have been taken out by Cattermole in the first minute and wouldn't be playing. So I respect your decision. I do respect your decision.
Just looking at Phil's team when he was starting off, I was thinking, wow, Millsy, he wouldn't last 20 seconds. Giles would be so far forward that it would be 3-0 down in 30 seconds. He clawed it back by putting Morris in, who was arguably going to be one of Boro's greatest ever midfielders. The Juninho vote, as I mentioned, swung it. Jimmy would probably end up breaking the net. Viduka, class act, absolutely brilliant. What a player he was for us. How he used to find his space in that 6-yard box, wriggle his way through 3 defenders, bury the ball, top of the net, brilliant player. Riley, we all know how good the goal is, so I'm just buttering you up now, Riley. We love Riley.
Thank you, Bandy.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
But Cattermole, Huth, and Pogatetz, they could probably run their own competition alone on who gets sin bin the most. But yeah, obviously the Aussie, but fair play to you, getting 3 Aussies in the team.
Yeah,
brilliant,
that's
mate.
it, exactly.
Yeah, keep it Oz. Well done, pal. That was great.
So the first winner, obviously, is Phil Spencer. And what we'll do is we'll keep Phil's team in further guests. We might do this again in the future, Bandy, and we'll keep Phil's team.
Phil,
and
I've got your trophy,
He's only got a trophy! Dicko, never call me. I'm never coming back. This is disgusting. I'm so
Give
upset.
it a big kiss, Phil. Give it a big kiss. Well done, lad.
Well done.
Right.
Well done.
Yeah, well, our winner stays on.
I've got something for you, right?
Yeah, what is it? Silver? Okay. That's what his team's going to look like once Huth and Pogatetz are finished with him, mate. They're all going to be dead skulls on the pitch. Hey?
Oh, wow. Can we do this every week? This is brilliant.
Well, winner stays on, so we'll get another guest on. We'll get them to pick their 6s and we'll put it up against Phil Spencer's. And we'll have winner stays on, Bandy. That's what we'll do.
That's a cracking idea.
Yeah, well
brilliant
done.
idea.
We'll bring it back
game.
in. Right, chaps? I'm going to have to thank you both for coming on. Unbelievably, it's just flown past. That's what fun does. Appreciate you both coming on. Appreciate your time, talking all things Boro. Please come back on again. Please, Rye. Please come back on
mate.
again.
Anytime, mate. You give me the call.
Don't take
give me the call. I might not pick up. I'm going to unfollow Bandy just quickly if that's all right. But no, thanks for having me.
If you do, there'll be someone after you.
Sticking pins in like a Vidubo.
Brilliant, chaps. Anyway, that's it for another week. We'll be back next week. So, as I say every week on here, Graham, don't say typical Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll see you next week. Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.